What happens when a queen from a distant land risks everything, reputation, power, even her identity, for the sake of wisdom? This isn't just a royal visit. This is the story of a woman who defied her empire's expectations to sit at the feet of the wisest man on earth. Welcome to Biblical Stories, where ancient voices speak louder than ever. In this series, Royal Diaries, Women Behind the Thrones, we step inside the minds and hearts of the queens history nearly forgot, but heaven remembers. Today we meet the Queen of Sheba.
I am Makeda. At least, that's the name my people gave me. Others would come to call me simply the Queen of Sheba. My skin bore the warmth of the southern sun, and my throne sat high above the lands of gold, incense, and spice. I ruled with dignity, but deep within, there was a hunger no banquet could satisfy. News traveled like desert winds, rumors of a king far in the north, whose words carried more weight than armies. They said he could unravel the mysteries of heaven. And I had questions no one else dared to ask. The journey was madness. My advisors warned me. A queen does not abandon her post to chase riddles and prophesize. But they didn't know what it was like to lie awake, night after night, with a mind that would not rest. My caravan stretched for miles, camels burdened with treasure, guards with sharpened blades, gifts for a man I had never seen. I left behind my palace, my comfort, my certainty. But I carried with me the questions of 1,000 lifetimes. I wasn't just bringing wealth, I was bringing my soul. Jerusalem was nothing like Sheba. No singing sand dunes or lush incense trees. But the air hummed with a different kind of power, subtle, sacred, strange. And then I saw him. Solomon. Draped not just in robes, but in wisdom. His gaze was sharp but not cruel. He didn't just hear me, he saw me. I asked him everything, riddles, doubts, fears cloaked in royal language. And he answered as if he had known the questions before they even left my lips. My guard stiffened. My heart softened. Every answer he gave felt like rain on my dry thoughts. It wasn't just knowledge, it was insight. Truth. He spoke of the stars, the soil, the soul. And I realized that for all my libraries and priests, for all my sacred scrolls and scholars, none of them had shown me what Solomon could reveal in a single sentence. My pride didn't crumble. It transformed. For the first time, I wasn't the teacher, I was the student. And I loved it. But there was more to this visit than intellect. I began to see the rhythm of his kingdom. Justice flowed like water. Even the servants were clothed in honor. His people rejoiced, not out of fear, but out of reverence. It was clear, this king didn't just serve power. He served someone greater. And that someone began to stir something ancient in me. A whisper. A calling. A name I had not spoken before, Yahweh. I watched him pray. Not with theatrics or rituals, but with stillness and awe. And I wondered, if this God could make a man like Solomon, what could he do with me? Could a woman from Sheba, distant, dark-skinned, foreign, be seen by this God? Could I, too, be more than a queen? Could I be his? So I gave. Not just spices and gold, but my recognition. My awe. My surrender. Blessed be the Lord your God, I said, voice trembling. He has delighted in you. In that moment, it felt like I wasn't just honoring Solomon. I was entering into something far bigger. Something divine. The God of Israel wasn't just the God of this kingdom. He was God of the world, even mine. When I returned to Sheba, I was not the same woman who had left. My counselors noticed. My people noticed. I ruled with the same strength, but now, it came with grace. My questions had not all been answered. But I had found the one who could. And that was enough. My kingdom flourished. My people prospered. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew, I had been written into a story greater than myself. Years later, they would say I was wise. That I brought prosperity. That I honored the ancient ways. But what they never knew, what I never told them, was the real reason behind the golden age of Sheba. It wasn't just trade or alliances. It was faith. A seed planted in Jerusalem, now blooming in my heart. I didn't just bring gifts to Solomon. I brought my heart to God. And somehow, he received it. You may know me only as a visitor in Solomon's tale, a footnote in the Chronicles of Kings. But I was more than a guest. I was a witness, a seeker, a queen who bowed, not in defeat, but in revelation. And to every woman who feels unseen, unheard, or too far from the promises of God, I say this: there's a place for you in His story. Even if your throne stands far from Jerusalem. There's a silence only royalty knows, the kind that echoes behind palace doors, where no one dares to question you, yet no one truly knows you. That silence was my companion long before my journey north. I had attendants, advisors, musicians, but no one who could sit across from me and challenge my soul. In Solomon, I found that rare mirror. Not one that flattered, but one that reflected. And in that reflection, I saw not just a queen, but a woman searching for something eternal. I remember the smell of cedar in his halls, the light bouncing off bronze and ivory. But what impressed me most wasn't the gold, it was the order, the harmony, the way wisdom governed not just the throne, but the servants, the singers, even the staircases. It felt like heaven had kissed the earth in this city. And deep inside, I feared returning to a kingdom that had never tasted that kind of divine rhythm. How could I rule the same after experiencing this? Solomon never once mocked my questions. He welcomed them, treated them as sacred. Even when I pushed, probed, tested him with riddles, he responded not with ego, but with depth. It was as if he understood that true power is not proved through dominance, but through patience. That's when I realized, wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to seek truth, even when it humbles you. That day, I felt both smaller and more alive than ever before. One night, under the stars, I asked him if he ever doubted. If the weight of kingship ever made him question his path. He looked at me, then up at the sky, and said, "Every sunrise reminds me I'm not the center of this story. I'm just a man who asked for wisdom instead of power, and was foolish enough to believe God would give it." That stayed with me. Not because it was poetic, but because it was honest. Vulnerability from a man the world called the greatest king. Before I left, I offered him the finest my kingdom could provide, talents of gold, rare gems, and the richest spices of the south. It wasn't payment. It was honor. But he surprised me. He returned the gesture with even greater abundance. Not just wealth, but gifts of insight. Blueprints for governance. Ideas for justice. And, above all, the revelation of a God who sees beyond borders, skin, and titles. In that moment, generosity became a language of heaven between two sovereigns. The road home felt shorter, though no less dangerous. But something in me had changed. I no longer led from a place of striving, but of stillness. The fire in my chest wasn't ambition, it was purpose. I had touched something holy, and it refused to let me go. In private moments, I would whisper the name of Solomon's God, not out of ritual, but out of awe. No longer a foreign deity, but the one who answered the hunger I once thought unquenchable. In the years that followed, stories were written about me, some true, others embroidered with legend. They said I bore a son. That Solomon's blood flowed in the royal veins of Sheba. I won't confirm or deny it. Some truths belong to the divine. But what I will say is this: I left Jerusalem carrying something eternal. A seed of faith. A spark of revelation. A connection to a God who does not require lineage to extend love, only a willing heart. And so I ruled. With justice, yes, but with mercy too. With strategy, but also with prayer. I taught my people that greatness is not built on conquest alone, but on curiosity, compassion, and connection to something higher. The legacy of my reign was not just in the architecture or trade routes, but in the quiet revolution of the soul. One woman, changed by truth, can shift the destiny of nations. Sometimes, I wonder how history remembers me. As a visitor, a queen with camels and questions. Or do they sense the deeper story, the transformation that happened in silence, between the lines? Let them write what they will. I know what happened. I came seeking wisdom. I left having touched the edge of the divine. Not all treasures shine. Some change the soul forever. So if you're watching this, know this isn't just ancient history, it's your story too. You don't need a throne or a crown to seek truth. You just need a question, and the courage to follow it. Like me, You might find answers in unexpected places. Maybe even in the presence of a God who's been waiting all along.
If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and explore more untold voices of Scripture here at Biblical Stories. Because the past still speaks, and you were meant to hear it.